This is an open and shut review. It's a deck builder like any other.
No, Scully, this one's different.
What could possibly be different?
This time, we're in it. To begin a game, each player selects one of the iconic characters from the X-Files series and starts with a very basic deck of cards with one recruit or one attack. They spend their recruitment points to gain cards from the Bureau, augmenting their deck. Players also spend attack points to scan and reveal cards in the shadows and to combat enemies. If the players can defeat the final conspiracy before all of their characters take too much damage from the strike deck, they win the game. My starting point is a pro, but it's not an innovative one because it focuses on two mechanics taken from previous Legendary Encounters games. A staple of the Legendary Encounters series since the beginning has been the Coordinate cards. These cards can be played during another player's turn to give them the recruit points or attack points. These encourage some nice basic cooperation between players and don't actually cost players anything since they get to draw a replacement. The other recycled mechanic is the Belief and Doubt cards and how they interact with the player characters. Each player character has a belief and a doubt effect that is resolved whenever one of these cards comes up in their deck. This type of mechanic was first used in the Firefly version of Legendary Encounters, but it does give each character a little bit of a unique feel, and also doesn't clog your deck up with cards, so it's a nice little mechanic to use again. My next point is mixed, and it looks at the endgame cards and the evidence that can boost their powers. On the positive side, I like how much variety there is in the endgame cards, and combined with 3 different evidence cards boosting them, you get a really different boss in each game you play. On the negative side, though, revealing the cards has basically no purpose, because the game has such little control over how you build your deck strategically that you can't really prepare for and address the evidence cards that come up. Another problematic aspect are the lead cards that allow you to reveal and discard these evidence cards. They are incredibly swingy. Some of them will be impossible to reveal when they come out of the conspiracy deck, and some of them will be incredibly simple and require you to do nothing. We have another pro in how the Academy deck and Bureau function in recruiting characters in the game. First of all, I really like the requirement to scan cards, and sometimes finding syndicate cards waiting for you. It's incredibly thematic for the tense, paranoia-filled world of the X-Files, and also just adds some tension to a very basic part of the deck-building game. I also like the bonus effects when you recruit cards from different spaces. We're back to a mix for my number 2, and that's how the Conspiracy deck is constructed, especially compared to other games in the Legendary Encounters series. On the positive side, there are 14 cards in each season of the Conspiracy deck, but you only use between 7 and 11 of them in a game. So you get a lot of variety in what cards you actually experience from session to session. On the negative side, though, they took a major step backwards in theme and mechanics from previous Legendary Encounters games. Whereas in the previous games like Aliens and Predator, you had 3 decks for one movie, and in Firefly you had 1 deck per episode. Here you get 1 card per episode, which means that unless you're a really big fan of the X-Files, you're not getting the full sense of the theme and storyline like you did in those other versions of Legendary Encounters. Additionally, because you never use all of the cards from a deck, they weren't able to put mechanical combos in the cards very often. So the cards tend to be standalone and don't interact with each other, which was one of the fun thematic things in previous versions of Legendary Encounters. My final point is unfortunately going to end on a really big negative. And that's that this game is not a deck builder, but what I like to call a deck bloater. In this game, you keep adding cards to your deck, but you can never call them out. Because of this, your deck gets larger and larger, and you just can't set up any cool combos. The final nail in the coffin of the deck building of the game is that the characters you get to build your decks aren't that interesting. Now yes, you've got Dana Scully and Fox Mulder, of course, Walter Skinner, and if you watch the later seasons, Monica Reyes and John Doggett, and you've got the Lone Gunman, fun guys from many episodes. But to fill out the final 3 decks, they went with characters that I never even realized were in the X-Files. Charles Burks, Sean Pendrell. What? Wesley from The Princess Bride was in the X-Files? So yeah, having a third of all available character cards be characters that were barely in the series and that all except the most diehard fans won't have any connection to seems like a really weird choice for a game where half the excitement is supposed to be adding cards to your deck. So you met her in the intro, but this is my lovely wife, Venessa.
Hello.
And she's a huge X-Files fan. How do you feel about this kind of as a game overall and in comparison to other deck builders?
First of all, I was really excited about this game because I'm an X-Files super fan. They weren't using illustrations, they were using like straight up stills from the show. I was geeking out over all of like the bad guys and the villains and the monsters and the syndicate. But as far as like the gameplay goes, I felt like it was really hard. But apart from that, I really liked it.
I'm a little bit less positive than Venessa. The theme doesn't like make it work for me as much. I feel like the narrative is a little bit lacking in this one. I think the deck building is worse. Like, this is one of the worst deck builders for actually building a cohesive strategy with your deck. So I would say as overall recommendations, if you're a huge X-Files fan, like my wife, I think you'll probably have a lot of fun with this. Clearly she did. There's some good stuff here, but I personally wouldn't recommend it too strongly. Good gaming, everyone.
The truth is out there.
It is.